Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Lech Techem podcast. We continue with Hachzik Day 40. We are page 95 of the art scroll, and we begin a new sugya over here, the sugya of Aveilus. Aveilus doesn't only mean Rahman al for a family member. This applies to feeling Hashem's pain. We're not too far from Tisha B'Av, from feeling the Aveilus of the Churban, of feeling the Aveilus of the lack of Shechina. And now, once again, we are going to look deeply into the intricacies of this mitzvah, specifically of Churban HaBayis, and we are going to see that mourning of the Torah is meant to awaken tshuva and allow us to refocus and to repent. And with that, we'll begin talking about focusing primarily on Aveilus of Yerushalayim. Aveilus Achurban and Beis Hamikdash Udavar Atad B'Maisa. Mourning over the Beis Hamikdash is something that is contingent upon one's actions. U'Berpab Bein HaMitzarim, especially during the Bein HaMitzarim, which have just passed, and unfortunately we have not seen the Beis Hamikdash yet. Be'yom u'Valayla. It applies to both by day and by night. Litin Efer B'Makom Hanachas Tefillin V'Leishiv Eitzal Mezuzah V'Lemer Seder Tikkun Chatzos. So how does one properly mourn the Beis Hamikdash? You put ashes in the area of tefillin and you sit by the mezuzah and recite Tikkun Chatzos. But of course, the action isn't the main thing. One's eyes must weep bitter tears and have a leiv nishbar v'nidka, a broken and humbled heart. Like a mother mourning, and she's gloomy and she's sad and she's groaning. That's the level of suffering we should have for Kadosh Baruch Hu. We're mourning over His lack of comfort in this world. He doesn't have a place to reside, a place to dwell in His Shechina. And all of this should be done according to one's level of understanding and the purity of his soul. And it's very true that we became impoverished. A very common question, a very, very popular sentiment, a hiccup in the whole avodah of Tisha B'Av and the 3 weeks is that we don't know what we lost. We can't feel that. We never saw the Beis Hamikdash. We never touched the stones. We never saw the Kohen Gadol in his glory. We never heard the beautiful songs of the Leviim. We never saw the Urim Tumim. We never had that level of clarity when there was a Kohen Gadol to ask all of our questions and our uncertainties to bring it to them. So, ask the Pele Yoeitz, how do we connect? We don't even know. We can conjure up. We can make up in our minds what it must have been like to have been living in such elevated times. But Lamaisa, we don't know what we're missing. We don't know what was destroyed. So, says the Pele Yoeitz, what can we do? He continues and he expounds. We don't know. We can't grasp what we cause with our abundant sins. We can't grasp the exact meaning of Shechina Begalusa. What does that mean? And the fact that the upper realms and the lower realms are in pain. And we Pasha don't know how to associate. And what's the big yidve, the big pain, the sulliness? What's everyone giving about? Again, we can conjure up, we can imagine, but lamaisa, what is it? So says the Pele Yoeitz, nevertheless, each person, every one of us, is obligated to mourn in a manner that is appropriate on our level. So the Pele Yoeitz says, okay, all we have, we're left with our imaginations. So the Pele Yoeitz advises that one should use the following contemplation to guide him in this area, and he should picture himself as if his own mother had donned the sackcloth, and was wearing and wrapping herself in black clothing of mourning, to ekes mora kol beramim and hemes kayena, crying bitterly in a loud voice, cooing mournfully like a dove, ma haloshan emeris. So it says the Pele Yoeitz, it's the same exact thing with the Shechina. The Shechina dons the clothing of mourning, ki'ilu, kavyachol, and laments about the sins of her children. And what does she say? What does she articulate? Kalani miroishi, kalani mizrahi. I'm burdened by my head, I'm burdened by my arm. Banim gidalti v'ramamti v'heim pashuvi. Children have I raised and exalted, but they have rebelled against me. V'chazois, chayiten aliba devar mamarim es alev. This and similar things should we put in our heart, things that will, with perspective, context of the Shechina, lamenting, crying, mourning over what was lost. And just like we can picture a mother in sackcloth mourning over what she lost, we can think of the Shechina Kaviyachal being like that motherly figure and mourning over how far we've strayed, the levels we have fallen. And that is how we can be Meshayar. That's how we can imagine a glimpse into what it means of Shechina Begalusa. And let ourselves pour forth in a soul, in a voice of wailing. And with that, as the Gemara says, Kol hamesabel ayushlayim zoichaver bebinyana, that anyone who is misabel, who attaches themselves, who connects themselves to the fact that we are bereft of the Beis Hamikdash, and really feels it, takes the time to think about it, to connect, even if we weren't there at the time, but to at least try. Such a person will be Yizke, the Yira ben Achamas Tzinu Bibin Beis Hamikdash, will merit to see the comforting of Tzion and the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, the house of our holiness and glory. Shabbat b'meir v'amen, amen. May it be rebuilt speedily in our days.